Yo, what's up, y'all? Noriako back again with another video. Second to last class of this, month intensive? We out here, man, trying to get 3 degrees buffer, inch by inch, step by step. I'm checking my notes here. Basically, only a couple things I want to talk about that really struck me and hit home in a really practical way. The point of spirituality, all right? This was the first thing. And ultimately, the point of spirituality is relational intimacy. The goal is intimacy. Now, when you put it like that, think about yesterday's video, right? All of a sudden, that's not task-based or oriented anymore. That's not based on what you accomplish or hitting certain check marks or getting this many converts. It's not based on any of that. It changes the game up because now your bottom line, instead of being that task list or your checklist, it's a state of being. And again, you know where I'm going with this. When it comes to this idea of being versus doing, recently I've discovered that being is much more important than just doing. All right, to clarify, being and doing are important. But if you have to choose one, I think that if you focus on your being, then your doing becomes a natural outflow of that being. But I think you can do a whole lot without it impacting who you are, what you're being, what you're becoming at all. There's a lot of people out there who just do things because that's what they want to do. And that's what they think will get them to the next stage. It has nothing to do with their being. All right. And that's the kind of thing that people see through. Take, for example, the Crusades. People, we talked about this yesterday too, people trying to say, oh, I'm doing this in the name of Jesus. Well, look at how many people are unwilling to give Christianity a chance today because of things like that. Their being did not inform their doing. They said they were something, and clearly they weren't. Their doing showed something very different about who they really were and what they were really trying to accomplish. We can't get around that. That's history. And, it kind of is what it is, for as unfortunate as it is. You can't erase that, is what I'm saying. It happened. But I think it's pretty clear that they weren't operating from the sense of transformational being as opposed to doing something that conflicted with who they said they were. All right. So that's the first thing. Now, when it comes to, again, this purpose of spirituality, well, if you look through the scripture, obviously we're looking for the second coming, for Jesus to return, the new heaven and the new earth. But the X factor is this: we get to take part in the new heaven and the new earth right now by living incarnationally, by taking the things that we believe in the spiritual sense and being according to the way that Jesus was with the people around us, right? Not just saying, oh, well, we're looking for these things to happen in the future and whatever until we get there. That's what a lot of people do, especially in the spiritual sense, where it's almost like a built-in excuse, right? Well, because I believe that God's going to take care of things down the line, I free myself. I give myself an excuse to do nothing when people around me are suffering and in hardship and toil right now. But that's not the way it was supposed to be. Jesus looked forward for the things that were to come and the things that he wanted to be. But he was also spending the majority of his time healing people, working with people, speaking with people, helping people, walking alongside the oppressed. And this is the second point, and I think the bigger point that I got from today. We studied a couple individuals. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was one of them. He grew up in a time where World War II was happening, when Hitler came into power, and he had an experience in the States, I think in 1930-31, where he went to a seminary in New York, worked with a lot of African Americans, and became very good friends with a guy, I think Frank was his first name, I can't remember his last name, but he was essentially in Harlem. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, this German, he's known for a lot of different things. A lot of people don't know this about him. I can go into a little bit more of that later when I go over these notes in more detail. But the bottom line is he learned something different about Jesus living in the experience and befriending African American people with the history that they had here in the States. So when he went back to Germany and dealt with and found the country dealing with World War II, he wasn't going to leave because he decided to walk alongside the people that were oppressed there as well, in the Jews and so on. All right, people who were considered second rate or not even human by the government and the things that were being put out there. And he was one speaking out when a lot of other people who were pastors and preachers were either not saying anything or even worse, agreeing with what the government was saying about these people at the time in an effort of self-preservation. You can't self-preserve and walk with the oppressed, because when you walk with the oppressed, you're putting yourself in a position to experience what the oppressed people experience. All right. So it's really deep. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer said that he learned hope. He learned what hope was by walking alongside the oppressed. And if you think about it, it makes sense. You can't understand what hope is if you've never experienced pain and hardship. You'll never know what hope really is beyond just a word definition unless you've gone through painful, repeated experiences. Those are the people who have the best and most complete and real and practical definition of hope, because they've been in situations where they want to get out. They're hoping for something better. That's actually coming out of the midst of them being hurt right in that moment. You know, I don't have anything wrong with people who are living a good life. Good for y'all, you know. But it's going to be more difficult for you to understand truly what it means to hope for something if life is easy for you. And then as a result, it becomes hard for you to relate to people who are marginalized and considered less than, because you're not taking the opportunity to walk with them. But whether you're wealthy or not, whether you have a good life or not, anybody is capable of walking with the oppressed. And you can learn what it means to hope. You can get a different view of things and spiritual things by having that experience. Now, when it comes to Christianity in particular, and this idea of walking with the oppressed, I think that the most oppressive thing in history was not slavery. It wasn't Nazi Germany. It wasn't crusades. It wasn't any of these things. It wasn't the war on terror. It wasn't what we see today with like LGBTQ issues. It's not any of that. It's sin. The most oppressive thing that humanity has ever faced is sin. And all of those things I just mentioned are a result or an impact of sin's oppression on this planet. It's the chokehold that it has on humanity, right? But if I consider myself to be a spiritual person, a follower of Christ, well, Jesus walked with the oppressed. He walked alongside the oppressed. When you follow his story through the Gospels, you don't see him avoiding the lepers. You don't see him running away from the woman with the issue of blood. You don't hear him leaving houses where people are crying that their sons or daughters died. You don't see him distancing himself from the people that everyone else in the community thought were outcast, the oppressed. No, those are the ones who became considered his best friends. And I keep coming back to this because it's so fascinating. The knock that people had on Jesus was that, oh, that dude, he associates with sinners. Well, that's the point of Christianity. That's the point of seeking that intimacy, relational intimacy with the people around you. Because it's only by, you've heard the phrase, walking in their shoes, walking with them, that you can get an idea of what it feels like to be there with them, and then to have some sympathy and empathy for them while they're there. Now, when you see people going through something, it bothers you. And it makes you want to do something different, as opposed to being completely separate from that. And you think that's another reality that doesn't apply to you at all. It's amazing. And it seems almost paradoxical in a sense, because spiritual people would say that, well, most of the things that we do is to get rid of sin in our lives. right? So walking alongside the sin oppressed person would be, it's almost, well, what are you talking about? Why would I do something like that? I'm trying to get away from that. And the problem is that's the very exact mentality that a lot of Christ followers have been raised with. That it's this exclusive thing, and because I follow Jesus, I'm supposed to distance myself from anyone who is a sinner. Completely forgetting and telling myself the lie that I am a sinner as well. You see how we do that? So, one, I can't believe that lie. Doesn't matter what religion I believe in. I'm not better than anybody else. Okay? I'm a sinner just like the next person. I need help just like the next person. I can walk alongside them, not because I'm coming from my high place down to their low place, but because we are both oppressed and we can share this together. And I can have empathy for someone else's struggle, and they can have empathy and sympathy for mine. And we can walk together towards a better end game and an end goal, even if we're of different cultural, relational, environmental, religious backgrounds. It doesn't matter. Because the bottom line, the goal of the business is not to convert everybody to what I think. The goal is to experience relational intimacy with them so I can fully relate to them and better understand them. That's the goal. And that's what gives other people hope. When they see that other people are willing to acknowledge the struggles that they're going through and walk with them through that, to help them survive in that moment, gives them something exciting in the future to look forward to, something hopeful to look forward to. That's what hope is all about. Too often when it comes to Christianity, the approach has been the exact opposite when it deals with the oppression of sin. And we look at it as, well, you're going to get punished for that. Oh, you're going to hell for that. And you need to change right now. And we don't want to let you into the club until you deal with these things first, until you accept everything that I believe first. It's backwards, and it's not what Jesus did. I can't call myself a Christian if I'm going to do the exact opposite of what he did when he was here. He mingled with the people. He walked alongside them. That was his method. He met their needs. The things that they needed, he was addressing. And he knew those things because he was willing to walk alongside them and willing to do something about it. That's the path of Christ. Not trying to distance yourself from these people because I'm better than you. Not at all. And if that's what I'm doing, I got it wrong. And I can call myself a Christian all I want, but I'm not. So it's a really good check. It's a really good check because a lot of times we think of ourselves as the hero in the story. And when we read through the Bible, we try to identify with the one who's coming in and doing the saving all the time. And we don't realize that, you know what, maybe I'm the one doing the oppressing. Maybe I'm the one on the other side who God is trying to reach by some supernatural means. And am I being so hard-headed that I'm missing the point? Thinking that I'm the other one trying to push my narrative forward and deliver someone, and I'm actually keeping others in captive because of the way I refuse to interact with them. It's deep. It's deep. I really enjoyed the class today, and I hope you enjoyed this video too. So with that, we out here. 3 degrees buffer. One more class. I'm sure it's going to be a banger. I'll catch you in the next one. All right. Peace.